All right, welcome back, everyone. Here is part 6 of the Sgraffito Mask project, final attachment and cutting out the border. You can see right now I'm doing my final attachment pieces, which is the horn area. So I've got two different horns and I'm just kind of placing them, noticing kind of the location of them in relationship to the forehead and everything else that I've got on the surface. I've added some features here and there, a little bit of clay added on to the forehead area to make it look a little bit more realistic on both sides of on the outside edges of the eyebrows. And then I'm just going to finalize and finish up scoring and slipping on my two horns on the forehead. So taking a needle tool and digging in really deep with a leather hard piece of clay. The horns have dried out for a little while, and now I've decided to start attaching them onto that location up top. I've got crisscross kind of pattern. I want to make a lot of little lines and making sure that the surface is completely agitated and really well scored before I apply the slip. Locate and don't be hesitant to put on a good amount of slip, and you can see that you want to make sure that there's going to be slip pushing out around the edges of each of those connected areas. If you don't have enough slip and it doesn't push out, it might not guarantee a good strong connection on the surface of that mask, and maybe later the horn might fall off. So any attachments, any parts that are going to be sticking up off the surface, like a horn or something like that, that you're going to need to attach while it's leather hard, you want to make sure that you have a really strong connection over the surface. And now I'm just kind of checking to make sure that things are in the right place and kind of going around the entire mask before I decide that I'm going to start cutting out the excess slab that's on the outside edge of my form. Take your arrow-shaped blade and test it out, see how well it cuts on that leather hard clay so that you get an understanding of what's going to happen. Keep your angle of your blade a little bit beveled, not straight up and down, but a little bit like a 45, and then just start following your line that you've drawn for your outside edge of your mask. That might be out past the mold. It also might be kind of along the mold as well. So the paper mold underneath might dictate exactly where you want to cut and how you draw it out on the surface. I'm using my left hand, so I'm always going to be cutting on the left side, so that's why I flipped over the mask and turned it and rotated it so that I was going to make the same cut going down the left side and then get to a certain point, and I'll cut away some of the excess on the corner and cut away where I finished my line cut. And you want to try to make sure that you cut all the way through the first time. If you don't, that's okay. You're just going to have to kind of trace your way back through it again and see if you can get a good cut along that line. Then I'm going to work on the bottom part at the chin, and then work again up around the forehead and finish that final cut. I want to take my time. Don't rush this. Make sure that you're taking your time and put a good cut all the way around the outside edge. Now you're going to get a little bit of a frayed edge around that slab from the blade. That's okay. We're going to be able to fix that up and clean that up a little bit with a few of our other tools that we have in the studio space. So you're going to be able to get something like a shredder, something that looks like kind of like a cheese grater, and you're going to be able to clean up all those frayed edges when you finished your cutting with the arrow-shaped blade. So now I'm just very lightly taking that shredder and kind of taking off all those little frayed edges with the result of those cutting parts with the blade. So this takes a little bit of time because you want to do the front side, and you kind of want to eventually you're going to probably do a little bit of cleanup on the outside, on the back side as well, because there's definitely some clay that's been folded over a little bit from the pressure of the blade going through the clay. And then you're just trying to even things out. You want to make sure that you have, if it's symmetrical or close to being symmetrical, you want to make sure that it's close to the same on both sides. You want to smooth things out, make sure that you have a nice clean edge, nothing sharp that could chip off or break off later. If you have a bunch of leftover cut off and it still has a little bit of bendability to it, just store it in another bag and make sure that you bring it back to the classroom so we can recycle it and turn it into new clay again. And then make sure you're just using a sponge if you need to on the surface, on those edges, smooth them out, take a little bit of water, and then make sure that you're checking your your symmetry. If you want it to be very symmetrical, you want to make sure that you're checking those things before you start letting it completely dry out. Shake off all the little chunks of clay that might have gotten stuck to the bag, and then you're ready probably to start wrapping things up. Spray it a little bit with some water just to keep it leather hard, and then keep that bag nice and tucked in, and then wrap the entire thing again with another bag, so the board included, everything goes inside the bag, and then you tuck it in together so it's nice and tight. And that's it. All right, good luck.